All right, we're going to talk about a concept, an idea it just gets your greed glands going. And I mean, why not? Why not? The idea of making money without any work. The idea of making money without any work. Passive income. That's what we're talking about today. And I'm going to share with you a couple strategies for generating passive income, but not before I do some myth busting around passive income, what it is, what to expect, because so many people want passive income, but they're not able to generate it. And they are not able to generate it because of this big myth around what it even is in the first place. So let's chat about that. Passive income, here's how. What I'll say is that passive is a great word for sales pitches. Passive is a great word for selling you something. But you have to be careful about believing it. So I tell you that I have a passive income strategy. You're like, yes, please, thank you. No work, all result. Cool. Yes. Sign me up, right? How much money do I have to pay you so you can tell me the secret to generating unlimited income without any work, right? Well, yes, and no. You have to be careful about believing it, even if you're a marketer who may use ideas around passive income in your marketing, right? You have to be careful about believing and buying into this idea that you don't have to work. Because while you can pursue setting up different strategies that allow you to generate income, there is going to be work involved. And if you come from the belief that you don't have to do any work at all, you're going to infinitely struggle to get it working in the first place, right? But if you come from the belief that it starts active and then it turns passive, right? That it is leveraged, that's going to be the secret. That's going to be the secret to achieving a lot of success with this. So almost nothing is truly passive. Almost no, okay, if you get a giant inheritance and you're able to put it in some super hands-off portfolio strategy, and that portfolio stays relatively stable through time, but also kicks off a bunch of income. Even something like CDs, certificates of deposit at the bank. You get this huge inheritance, and you put all the money into interest-paying vehicles like certificates of deposit. Okay, maybe that's passive income, right? But almost nothing is anywhere close to that, especially for the vast majority of us who don't have that option to have a huge inheritance showing up as our secret to generating wealth, right? So a better way for you to think of it, even as we go back and forth and use the word passive consistently, is to think of it as leveraged income. There's going to be front-loaded work of some kind that allows you to generate this income. The front-loaded work means you're going to do work in the short term, but you're going to continue to get paid in the long term. And ideally, good leveraged income has, some whatever amount of front-loaded work, and then there is very little effort required to maintain it to keep the income coming in. And ideally, through time, there's going to be, front-loaded work followed by ever-growing income that continues to come in with almost no effort at all. So I want to talk to you about a couple passive income strategies, acknowledging that this is breakthrough marketing secrets. One of the biggest opportunities that most of us have for passive income is through some type of business and marketing activity. And so one good example of this, and so many people in my audience are copywriters, is copywriting royalties. You do the project, right? And you hand it off to a really good marketer who is capable of taking what you write and making the most of it. And for as long as they continue to make sales off of the copywriting that you did, they're paying you a royalty, a percentage of sales based on the sales that are generated. And kind of fitting underneath this would be an affiliate setup where you're actually getting paid based on referring buyers to a customer, but you're more in control of, or referring buyers to another business, but you're more in control of the traffic and the initial interaction with the customer. Affiliate marketing is sold as like this big passive income strategy, but what I'll say is that a lot of people never get it working because they never treat it like a business in the first place. They never do the front-loaded work, or they don't understand what it takes to really generate a ton of traffic, which is required for affiliate marketing to be successful. But this kind of like creating marketing that generates results and then getting paid based on the results, whatever that pay for performance arrangement looks like, that is one way that you can generate passive income in business and in marketing, right? A self-run business. What is that? Well, as much as we may have that entrepreneurial dream to build a business that runs itself, many times when people actually start building a business and realize what it takes to start building a business, for the first few years, it becomes a job that is more than a full-time job, and it does not feel passive at all. It feels very extremely active, right? But as the business starts to succeed, if you really make it a goal that a large part of your front-loaded work is to recruit a team that is able to generate the results in the business without you being there, well, that becomes a self-run business. And that's beyond the scope of what we talk about mostly here at Breakthrough Marketing Secrets. But if you create an entrepreneurial endeavor where the team is managing a lot of it, well, you can have a lot of passive income coming out of a business, but you have to build and retain a team that you can really trust to make that happen and that's able to generate those results through time. And for a lot of entrepreneurs, we're talking 3 to 5 years at least before they can even really start to step away from the business. And sometimes a lot longer, and the business has to be built from the ground up that it can be run without you. Another example in business and marketing is something like intellectual property. So a really easy example of this is an author that writes a book and sells it to a publisher, and the publisher pays royalties. Different type of royalties than copywriting royalties. Copywriting royalties are more like sales commissions. And in fact, based on international royalties law, copywriting royalties shouldn't even be called royalties, but that's what we call it. So intellectual property is you sell a piece of intellectual property. It could be a book. It could be an invention. It could be whatever it is, right? You sell that piece of intellectual property to somebody who's able to market it and able to distribute it and take it to market, and they pay you some small percentage of sales. Another good example of a passive income strategy in the world of business. And what all of these have in common is there's a lot of front-loaded work. There's front-loaded work for a copywriting project, for doing a bunch of copywriting projects. There's front-loaded work for building a self-run business. There's front-loaded work for inventing something or writing a bestseller, right? There's a lot of front-loaded work there. And then eventually it turns into passive income. Some of the challenges associated with any of these is building the skills and creating the value that are required to be successful at any of these, right? And that's all, I'm not giving you these challenges or trying to make this into something more difficult than it is. It is not necessarily easy, right? But if you set one of these as your goal and you work towards this goal consistently through time, you are able to generate a lot of passive income from these different opportunities, right? And so that is one passive income strategy. Passive income strategy number 2 is investments. Some examples of this: real estate. I, with my wife, own a company that owns an office suite. And we rent out that office suite to tenants in the health and wellness space. And those tenants just pay us on a monthly basis. And that's one example. It's a fairly passive income strategy, right? But it required having access to the right opportunity. It required being able to invest in that, being in a place where we were able to invest in that. It does require work. It requires work to manage tenants. and it requires work to manage the office space, right? But it's mostly passive, right? It's a fairly passive income strategy. There are months where thousands of dollars show up that don't require much work at all, but there is constant responsibility associated with that could outsource to property management, but then we'd pay them a portion of our passive income, right? And so real estate can be a way to generate passive income, especially if you're able to build a bigger portfolio of real estate. Or you can invest in stocks and bonds. And in fact, there's a link in the description to my Matic Wealth project, which is all about how I invest my money in stocks and bonds, and have built a portfolio that generates income every month. And it really does require consistency, right? It requires the ability to invest. That's the front-loaded effort for investing, is you're taking money out of your active work life, right? Whether that's career, business, whatever, and you're putting it into a portfolio that's a passive approach to investing in stocks and bonds, and it's going to generate income. And give it a long enough time to snowball, it has the potential, or put enough money in up front, it has the potential to generate a ton of passive income, right? And so that is another approach to passive income, right? There are other investments, but the more you're trying to chase like strange investment ideas or alternative investment strategies, the more likely you are, number one, to end up in a situation where it's not passive, where you're constantly trying to manage whatever the investments are. And number two, where you're putting yourself at risk, because investing, you end up in this situation where with investing, you are on one side of it, you're trying to just be an investor and just trying to let your money make money. But on the other side of it, you're trying to make good investments, which very quickly gets into speculation, right? Trying to beat the market. And I've talked elsewhere about how dangerous it is to try and beat the market, and how most investors, including most professional investors, fail at that in the long run. Short term, you may have some big wins. In the long run, the vast majority of individual investors, professional investors, fail at trying to just beat the market in stocks and bonds. And so in terms of passive income, chasing these alternative investments isn't necessarily, I think, the best thing for most of us to do. But it can potentially be a passive income strategy, right? So challenges associated with this is your ability to invest, right? You have to have the money in the first place to invest. Borrowing money to invest is particularly dangerous and very much verges on gambling, and I don't necessarily recommend that. So you have to have your own money to invest, which means you have to have generated income elsewhere. That's the front-loaded effort here. You have to have access to opportunity. And one of the big challenges that you run into chasing any kind of investments is this whole idea of investment versus speculation versus that gambling that I was talking about, right? That if you don't really understand what you're investing in, or if you are trying to beat the market, a lot of it often comes down to this idea of just trying to buy something cheaper than it's going to be later, to sell it to somebody who's willing to pay more than you are for it. And that can be a dangerous equation, and can get you into trouble. If you do want passive income, remember this. Expect that there will be some front-loaded work. There's lots of different front-loaded work things that can happen, right? It can be saving and then putting that money to work, or it can be doing work now to build an asset that will continue to pay you off in the long run. And so that's not going to feel passive at first. The way to generate passive income later is to do active things now. And the goal is to set yourself up for the long term, for the long run. My intention through time is to eventually have so much passive income that I don't even want to work, because it's just generating so much income for me, right? And that's the goal with setting up any kind of passive income streams. And I do say, consider how diversification can play an important role in your income strategy, right? So maybe working in your business and having some money in the markets, or doing some stock and bond investing as well as doing some real estate investing, right? Consider diversification, also diversification within your normal investment market portfolio, right? All of those things are important because what that's going to allow you to do is to maintain capital through ups and downs in different markets and allow you to invest or generate more income for the long run because your core investment account stays there for you. So my call to action for you at the end of this, maybe this is not exactly what you wanted to hear when it comes to passive income, but this might be what you needed to hear. And so ask yourself, how can you use what you've heard here today in this episode? Don't forget to like and subscribe so you get more content like this delivered to you. And if you're interested in learning more about my approach to investing in the markets, check out my Matic Wealth project. The goal there is to help you grow your wealth automatically. I'm Roy Furr, and this episode is Breakthrough Marketing Secrets. It's not Matic Wealth, but we're doing some episodes focused on wealth creation, wealth generation, and investing because I've been in that business since 2010. In the next few days, we'll switch more back towards marketing stuff, but I hope you got a ton of value out of this, and I'll catch you again in the next episode. See you soon. Bye. Thank you once again for tuning in to this daily episode of Breakthrough Marketing Secrets. Remember, check out the links with this episode for even more value. Now make sure you like, comment, share, subscribe, and engage in every way you can to keep this show going and growing and delivering daily value to you. I'll catch you soon for your next big breakthrough.